This is all training. Not only are we transforming energy in the moment and putting in motion positive forces that elevate the soul, but we're also training ourselves so that the moment death comes, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, we're in a state of equanimity, not surprised, not like it's sneaking up on us, but we see it coming. And we see it and we smile. And we accept it. That capacity is what gives us the ability to use death as a doorway and transform it. Instead of dealing with death the way every other being on the planet deals with death. In the next few lectures, we're going to talk about what happens when we die. It's complicated. It's not easy to understand because we are only going to be trying to understand it conceptually. I strongly recommend that you meditate daily on life and death. We're going to talk about a variety of practices that you can put into motion. Use them. They'll bear fruit. You'll understand a lot more. It's really not possible to explain death in a discourse or a book. It's like life. You have to experience it. It can't be comprehended through concepts. Remember the example I gave you of how expansive and complicated life is? Death's the same. Very complicated. A lot happens. But what we'll try to talk about are principles. This image is another Tibetan painting that shows couples engaged in the sexual act. And there are two separate examples here. What we need to look at is in the clouds above, there is a being. And above one of the couples is also a being. This painting is showing a choice that we have about what happens to us when we die. I know that in many spiritual traditions nowadays, or spiritual theories, a lot of people now have this belief that we choose our lives. That when we die, we go to some heavenly thing, some heavenly place, and then we get to choose our next life. And so we may look in some mirror of existence and say, I think I want to be born here and have this and that kind of life, and I need these things for my soul. That's all lies. That's all fantasies generated to sell books and sell tickets to come to conventions. It's all lies. There's no evidence of any of that in any scripture in the world. We need to rely on the scriptures. We need to rely on the teachings of authentic masters, not people who are selling books or trying to get us to come to a conference. The reality is the passage through death to another life is extremely complicated and difficult. And if you want to know how it is, look at what happens when you sleep. If you have no cognizance of what happens to you from the moment you fall asleep to the moment you awaken, you will also have no cognizance of what happens between lives. Zero. If you want to determine your next existence, your next body, you need cognizance of what happens to you when you're sleeping physically. You need to be awake. If you are awakened all night, then you have a chance to be awakened after death. It depends on how you pass through that doorway. If you pass through that doorway through a trauma and become identified through your death with an attachment to your family, attachment to your children, attachment to your car, or your wealth that you've amassed that you're going to lose now, that attachment will determine your state as you pass through the between. This is why we have to train so hard. Every day. Start now. Start now. And that way, when you're in the between, you can choose. You can have an impact. In other words, you can negotiate your karma. You see, karma is not a fixed mechanical law. It's negotiable. And it's negotiable precisely through action, through energy and motion. It begins by being awake. If you're asleep as a consciousness, you can't negotiate. You're asleep. So when I say that you have a choice here, it's not like someone's going to say, ding, 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 you win. You would choose A or B. Which way do you want? It's not like that. It's like a choice that you have right now. The choice you have right now is to be attentive and pay attention, or to go off and fantasize and daydream. We're making that choice all the time. Most of the time, we're off fantasizing and daydreaming. We're tiptoeing around the garden of our psychological country, playing games in our mind with concepts and memories and wishes for the future. That's all fantasy, it's all illusion. And if you're doing that every day now, then you're doing it all night. That's why you're dreaming at work, doing the same things you do during the day. That's why you're dreaming with your parents and your kids and your sisters and brothers. That's why you're dreaming the same dreams every night. And that's why you don't remember any dreams. It's because during the day, you're incognizant, asleep, unconscious. If you want to awaken consciousness at night, when your physical body is asleep, awaken now, when you're in your physical body. That constant, persistent effort to be cognizant, present here and now, will become part of how you experience night, naturally. You train yourself, because the training is in the consciousness. And when you start doing it at night, then you have a potential to do it when you die. This is the training. We start here and now in the physical body. We extend that effort into the nighttime practice called dream yoga. I know people generally think dream yoga is all about going to temples and having experiences with masters. That's part of it. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is so that you're prepared for death. So that when your death comes, you can pass through the door cognizantly, awake. And so that your soul in the world of the dead will be awake. So that you can negotiate your karma. The Buddha gave a very profound teaching about this that has been terribly misinterpreted by many people. The Buddha Shakyamuni said, "It is very precious to be born as a human being. It is very rare. We should cherish this opportunity." And this is what he said. It is as rare as this example. Imagine the ocean. Picture how vast and deep the ocean is. How huge. And now imagine out in the midst of that ocean is a little piece of thread, gold, in a loop. And by chance, a turtle rises up from the depths and just happens to put its neck through that loop of thread. That is how the odds are stacked against what you have now, a physical body. Some people have interpreted this to say that it's very rare to be born as a physical body. We disagree with that. What the story illustrates is the mathematics, the odds. We're born into human physical bodies because of evolution and karma. But the odds of it, in contrast to all the other existences that exist, to all the other types of bodies, to all the other lives that we've had, that's how rare it is. When you imagine how many times you were born as a mineral, in a mineral body, as a plant in a plant body, as an animal in an animal body, or in between states, between those bodies, millions and millions and millions and millions of times. It's very small window of opportunity when you're in a human body.